Coming off a 26-14 win at Carthage, North Central returns home and now hits homecoming. Now, what exactly is going on in the CCIW standings? We'll get to all that and more next on the Red Zone.
The presenting sponsor of the Red Zone is Athletico, the preferred provider of physical therapy and athletic training for North Central College.
Welcome into the Red Zone. The Cardinals coming off that 26-14 win, and the head coach of the football team, Jeff Thorne, on the show. Big win in Kenosha, and we always talk about how difficult it is to play at Carthage, and yet this is your 7th consecutive victory at Art Keller Stadium. That's a good team that you beat on Saturday.
It's a really good team. Their record is not at all indicative of the type of team that they are. They're extremely athletic. They're aggressive. They hit you. Offensively, they're diverse. So that was a really satisfying win. We knew it was going to be tough. We didn't treat this like a 2-4 team. We treated it like, hey, we're going to play a team that's 5-1.
Yeah.
If you don't treat it that way, then we're going to walk away disappointed.
Well, let's start with the offense, and I want to start with the running game because a bit of a difficulty trying to run the football against this Carthage front. We know that Carthage is, like you said, they're going to hit you. But what were some of those difficulties in the run game?
You know, they have the #1 rush defense in the conference for a reason.
Yeah.
They're very talented up front. Their linebackers run well. And then they bring some blitz packages that make you think and make your linemen adjust at the line of scrimmage. Clearly, we didn't do a very good job of getting our guys ready for that because we didn't handle it well. And they outplayed us at the line of scrimmage. So we were fortunate, very fortunate, to win the game. When you can't run the ball, it makes it extremely difficult offensively.
As a coach, I'm sure everything when it works well is fun, but making those adjustments and trying to pick apart what went wrong on tape, is that kind of the more fun and challenging part of the job?
I think the funnest part is being on the sidelines as you're going through that. As frustrating as it sounds like it is, and it is, those are the games that when you walk away from them, you feel the most rewarded for what you've put into it as a coach and as a coaching staff.
Yeah.
So, you know, you leave the field feeling really good about it, knowing, hey, tomorrow it's going to be ugly, but let's enjoy what we just did for the time being while we can.
Well, let's talk about the passing game because that worked beautifully. And as we were talking just before we hopped on, the weather wasn't exactly cooperating. It didn't lend itself to a passing attack, and yet you still succeeded in that area.
Yeah, there were several throws that Brock made that were impacted by the wind. So that's difficult, and your receivers have to really track the football because it's moving as it's approaching you.
Yeah.
I thought our guys did a tremendous job of just sticking to it. Hey, eventually, guys, eventually we're going to get a play. And you know, Corey Hardiman right before halftime, we pushed the tempo a little bit, got them on their heels, and Brock settled down and really started putting the ball on point, and we get a big long touchdown with a great block, as we'll see here in a little bit.
Now let's get to the defensive end because while you guys had difficulty running the football, they had no room to run at all. And let's credit the defensive line. They looked terrific.
They did. They did a really nice job of reading their key, putting their eyes where they're supposed to go, as we've talked about. Our linebackers played at a very, very high level on Saturday. And then we covered. You know, we asked our corners to do some things they don't do every week and cover on a down-by-down basis. And I thought they did a really nice job with that. DJ
Workenthing. We talk about this guy every other week.
Yeah.
4 tackles for loss. And he was named to the D3 football team of the week for the 2nd time, CCIW Defensive Player of the Week again. He's just having an unbelievable year.
Yeah, I think I read a stat that he had 4 or 5 consecutive 3rd down tackles that ended drives in the second half. And, you know, that's what senior leaders, senior captains, returning all-conference players, all-region. He was a preseason All-American for a reason, and we're seeing why.
Tommy Highland. He's a big guy. He clogs up the middle. This is another game in which he records a sack. 5 out of the 7 that you've played, he has a sack in. How valuable has his production been this year?
Extremely. You know, he's active and he's very fast. And once he can get through, you know, if he can beat his man, his ability to close out to the quarterback is different than most defensive tackles, particularly at the Division III level. So it's been fun to watch him continue to get better, and that's still an ongoing process. And he's practicing hard and listening to Coach Janasek's coaching points. So I'm excited to see what could happen for him these last 3 weeks of the season and hopefully beyond.
We don't usually see that kind of production from a defensive tackle, 5 sacks. What about him allows him to succeed in that particular area?
Well, he was a defensive end in high school and at his previous school, and when he came over here, we have more depth at defensive end than we have at defensive tackle. He would be a good defensive end for us too. Our need was more at tackle. So I think it speaks to his unselfishness too, that he's been willing to move in there, but he's been able to use some of those skills from an edge rusher and brought him inside. And it's really been effective as we've seen.
Well, we've talked about Tommy, we've talked about DJ, we talked about Corey. We'll see him again. We'll have Check the Tape coming up.
Okay.
We'll be right back on the Red Zone.
This Red Zone segment is brought to you by Arena Americas, specialists in providing full-service rental solutions for events and special occasions of all sizes.
And now it's time to check the tape. And Coach, we alluded to this in the first segment, but a pivotal play in this one because to this point, no touchdowns on the board, and then Corey Hardeman turns the corner, and here you go. What happened on this play that allowed him to get 50 yards upfield?
You know, just running a simple spacing concept, curl flat, and they took away the downfield element. Brock checked down, threw it out to Corey, and he turned the corner. You saw as he was making his way up the sideline, Drew Kaminsky playing, you know, 6-second football we talk about, and this touchdown block, you'll see him come into the screen right there. That is what sprung the play. We don't get in the end zone there without that block.
Yeah.
But it had been a frustrating half because our defense had done such a great job. We kept getting the ball back in plus territory, and we weren't getting anything.
Yeah.
So they had scored to take the lead. We had very little time left in the half, and we pushed tempo a little bit. Brock got into a rhythm, and boom, we get a big play, and a great way to flip the momentum going into halftime.
Is momentum a real thing in football games?
No question. Yeah, absolutely. There absolutely is such a thing as momentum.
And you felt that coming into the second half?
Yeah, and you could see how it affected their sideline as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, here's another play, and this is a demoralizing play for an opposing team when they see DJ Workington coming across the line of scrimmage. Let's see, maybe a second after that ball is snapped, he's in the backfield.
Yeah, it just adds to his school record in tackles for loss. He just continues to do it. He's playing at such a high level right now and leading in a way that I've never seen him lead before. Just really, really pleased and proud of the development we've seen from DJ over the course of the offseason and continuing through the summer and through this season as well. He's been terrific.
Now, we see speed on the field a lot. I mean, there's a lot of fast guys in Division III. DJ not only possesses that, but the ability to bring down a ball carrier and break down. So he's not running past guys. He's able to wrap it up. How difficult is it to actually effectively do that?
Well, to close out to people the way he does, running near full speed and make tackles, that's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. So it's a skill that he makes a lot of tackles as he's falling down, which you don't coach. But I think it's some of his wrestling background and just being used to being, you know, on the ground going after legs. He does a great job with it, and so you know, some of coaching is knowing that you don't want to overcoach at times. And this is a kid that just makes plays, so let's let him continue to make plays.
Well, another kid that makes plays is Tommy Highland, and like I mentioned in the first segment, this is his 4.5 sack this year, and showing off his speed in the interior. Yeah, and there you see him. He beats the offensive guard, gets on an edge, and then, you know, accelerates, that's very, very rare for a defensive tackle to have that kind of speed. I mean, he runs like, you know, tight ends run, and he's playing defensive tackle. Now, when we looked at this play earlier, you said that Lane Brinkman had one of his best games of the season. What was it about Lane's performance? You know, he was locked in. He was on his key and made 5 solo tackles, and that's rare for a defensive tackle to do that. Yeah. We need that to continue from him. He's really, really talented. He's a load for offenses to have to account for, and we're seeing him continue to improve as well. Up next, Elmhurst. So they have a quarterback, Hernandez, that can do some things on the offensive end, especially running the football. What kind of challenges does that present? You know, it'll be a little bit different than what we've dealt with so far this year. We haven't had a running quarterback, so to speak, in our preparation. So that always poses a little bit different of a challenge. Yeah. And then obviously that's probably good experience for this defense to have. You don't know who you're going to face should you get to the postseason. Right. Does it kind of help you down the line if you face a running quarterback? Yeah, I think so. You know,
the following week when we play Illinois Wesleyan, their kid is an athletic type of kid that they use in the run game at times. So I think it'll help, yeah.
Now, homecoming. These are always fun activities. Great atmosphere, you know, it should be a lot of fun. What do you look forward to when you get to homecoming?
You know, it's just always fun to see alumni come back, and you can shake their hands after the game and catch up with them a little bit. But also, it typically brings a larger crowd, and the guys always enjoy playing in front of a bigger crowd. This year, with the added significance of Tyke Spencer going into the Hall of Fame, really exciting.
Well, let's talk about that. Perfect segue. Tyke, one of, if not the best receiver in program history. Yeah. You got the best view in the house, watching him do that week in and week out. Right. You work with his brother every single day. I'm sure this is a special weekend.
Yeah, he is. Not to take anything away from the other young guys we've had come play, we've had some terrific receivers. He is the best. Yeah. You know, there's a reason he was at Indiana for 2 years and playing. Yeah. Transferring down to us was such a springboard for our program. It really legitimized us. And, you know, game planning for a guy like Tyke had to be a nightmare because he was just a matchup positive for us, and other teams had to game plan for him every week. He saw different coverages all the time, and yet always found a way to get open, and then what he did with the ball after the catch was special. Yeah. So I'm thrilled that he's being acknowledged. It's extremely well deserved. Amazing guy too, just really, really humble, and comes around with his wife and his little girl pretty frequently. So excited for the whole Spencer family.
That's pretty awesome. Now, when I was looking back, I saw that he had, in his third game, 14 catches, 288 yards. We talked a few weeks ago how Michael Svikas had those 14 catches, and it didn't feel like he was having a record day. Did you feel like it was happening that day?
Oh, yeah, because the other team there was nothing they could do. You know, there were certain routes that he could run that we still have yet to have a guy be able to run the routes to be able to take advantage of just his change of direction, his speed, explosiveness. He was really special.
That's pretty awesome. You ready for your quick hit?
Sure.
I'm ready for it because this is I like your best dad joke.
Okay, so years ago he sprung this on me, but he asked me, how do you pronounce the capital of Kentucky, Louisville or Louisville? Louisville. And yeah, that's what I said. And he said, oh, interesting. I pronounce it Frankfurt. So, you know, play on words. Yeah, exactly.
Well done. Coach, thanks so much, and good luck against Elmhurst.
Thanks, Kevin.
Coming up next, we have a couple of players joining me on set. We're right back on the Red Zone. It's not exactly often that a punt is worthy of the play of the game, but, well, here we are. Zane Ladico corrals a ball ticketed for over his head, then able to unleash a punt that is downed at the 3-yard line. The punter has been one of the conference's best over his 2.5 years as a starter, and oh yeah, he also doubles as a running back and even recorded a rushing touchdown in the Cardinals' 26-14 win over Carthage. And we're back on the Red Zone, and Brock Rudder, Jake Beasley joining me on set. Guys, welcome. Welcome back. Welcome to the show, Jake. Let's start on the defensive end. You guys had a phenomenal effort up at Kenosha. You put that team on lockdown. How did you feel exiting that game, Jake?
It was good. We had a lot of high energy. The wind was blowing, so they couldn't throw as much. And we just stopped the run game from the start, and that was pretty cool to see.
Now, you're making that transition from a wide receiver last year to now a cornerback this year. What has that been like for you?
Just grinding technique, and it's a big difference, but good coaches who played the position for a while in the past, and it's just been a huge help for me learning the position.
We talked, I think it was after maybe the Lake Forest game or something like that, but you mentioned you played in high school, so how much have you kind of leaned on that prior experience of playing corner?
Yeah, I played in high school. It was a different position, though, a little bit more safety-wise.
Okay.
But I never did, like, pressing up, so that's a little bit different, but overall I like defense a lot better so far. A lot more energy.
We talk, you know, just before hopping on set, Brock, you missed this guy a little bit on the offensive end, I'm sure.
Yeah, no one could keep up with his speed all the time.
Now, Brock, obviously your receiving core is phenomenal this year. This is the second time on set, but we're probably going to repeat a lot of the same sentiments that we had in the first time, which is, you know, Kaminsky's good, Cam Moore's very good, Svikas is very good. But how are these guys coming along this year?
They're doing a great job. They keep getting better and better every week. Even Corey Hardham has had a great year. He's been making big-time plays. Every time we need him to make a play, he's made a big play. He had a huge touchdown. That got us a ton of momentum going into half last week. So it's awesome to see the development of all of them. Cam Moore keeping on learning the playbook and just improving every week.
Corey, when he turned that ball up the sideline, how excited were you?
I was thrilled. Just a simple arrow route he caught, and Andrew Kaminsky made a huge block.
Yeah.
Teamwork, they work together really well, and they all want to play for each other, so that was good to see.
Jake, obviously there's a lot of veterans in that back half of the secondary. Sutherland, Greenberg, Cravens. How much have you tried to pick their brain when it comes to picking up that back half of the defense?
Yeah, on my side, it's Sutherland and Greenberg usually just help me with the calls, and any question I have, I can go to them. And they've just been like very helpful in learning the playbook and like situational football, which has helped me a lot.
Seems like you guys have gotten better each and every week as a unit. Have you talked about like how to improve in different areas, and do you feel comfortable with where you are now?
Yeah, it's mostly communication on the defensive end, because we got many checks, so we have to line to what they do.
Yeah.
And it's just always like we're never wrong when we're communicating.
Yeah.
So as long as we're on the same page, we're going to be doing all right.
How fun is it playing with DJ Workenthien?
He's a motor. He never stops. Just a ball of energy, and it's just always fun to play with him.
You've had, what now, 7 years of DJ?
Yeah.
Maybe longer if you played some Pop Warner?
Yeah, I think this is our 7th year.
Holy smokes.
So, yeah.
Is he getting better and better as a
Played
leader?
baseball when we were young. Yeah,
you really?
Yeah, when we were really, really young.
Wow.
So, yeah, he's been awesome leader this year. He's really taken the next step and grabbed the defense and just said, follow me, and done a great job this year.
Obviously you're probably the captain of the offense, but who else has kind of emerged as maybe a vocal or kind of a lead by example leader?
I think Andrew Kaminsky does a great job of leading. He really leads by example too. Toughness. He never sits out of anything, wants to keep working all the time. And Ricky Serba's done a nice job of stepping up and leading as well on the offensive line.
Now, Jake, 6-1. You guys are in a good position. You control your own destiny. Is it fun knowing that if you guys win out, that you will be the conference champs?
Yeah, definitely. That's a big goal for us, is to make it to the playoffs. And by winning the conference championship, we'll secure that spot. So now it's just playing to get to that spot, and all the games we've played in the past have led us to this point, so it's really exciting.
Have you guys talked about kind of the difficulties that still lie ahead? You know, you've got Elmhurst, you got Illinois Wesleyan, you got Millikin, who's had a really good year. You kind of anticipating some really tough matchups coming up?
Yeah, all three of the games we have left, we're just trying to every week prepare for those.
Yeah.
And just for the long run. So it's just exciting at this point.
Third year as a starting quarterback. I know the mantra is week to week, you know, game to game, practice to practice. At this point of the year, does it get a little bit difficult, or is it easier to hone in on that next opponent?
I think it's easier. You know, we've had 7 games now to realize what we need to keep getting better at, and we realize that there's a lot that we need to get better at to be able to win the games that we need to win to put ourselves in the playoffs. So it's just as a group collectively taking it one practice at a time, understanding that each and every practice we need to get better, and there's things we can fix.
Nice. You guys ready for the quick hits?
Yep.
There's some good ones here. We're going to channel your childhood. We're also going to get some. Well, I'll leave it at that. First question, we'll start with Brock. What was your favorite movie growing up as a kid?
I would have to say Sandlot. Whenever I was sitting at home, my mom couldn't get it off the TV. Every time my cousin would be over, we'd be glued to the TV watching Sandlot.
Favorite character?
Smalls, probably.
Yeah.
Gotta be.
Nice. Jake?
Mine will be Little Giants.
Nice.
Really funny movie when I was growing up. Me and my brothers would watch it all the time. Just really relatable, and it was really funny.
Those are two of probably the most prototypical sports kids movies out there.
Oh,
Jake, we'll start with you for this one. If football had walk-up music like a baseball game would, what would your song be?
I'd probably take my walk-up song from baseball in high school.
Yeah.
It was like a funny heavy metal song, Down with the Sickness.
Yeah.
And it's just really funny. Everyone in the stadium was laughing every time I would go up. So that's probably
nothing like heavy metal at a quiet baseball game, right?
That's cool.
Brock, how about you?
I'd have to probably say Sandman. I was watching a Virginia Tech game a couple weeks ago, and they entered the stadium to that, and it was pretty cool. The stadium got pretty wild.
It's the old Mariano Rivera, the closer the Yankees would enter.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing more intimidating than that.
How about it?
Yeah. Brock, we'll start with you for this one. I'm looking forward to this.
All right.
Give me your best dad joke.
You know, I got to bounce one off my good friend Mike, who just had a kid. So he's a dad now, and they've been getting on him. He had to cut some weight last year, and he always says, I'm on a seafood diet. I see food and I eat it. So I'd have to go with that one.
That's awesome. That's perfect. Jake?
Mine is, why can't a bike stand up by itself?
Why is that?
It's too tired.
Well done. Guys, thanks for hopping on. Great jokes. We'll get more from you guys later on. How about that? Good luck against Elmhurst.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we'll go to the Cardinal Corner. We'll be right back on the Red Zone.
This Red Zone segment is sponsored by Belgio's Catering.
Okay, so the CCIW football standings are a little muddy, but for one time only, I'll help you clear this whole thing up. You ready? All right. Illinois Wesleyan is sitting pretty with a sterling silver 6-0 record. However, the Titans season isn't without a little tarnish. Every CCIW win has come by 17 points or less, and that includes an overtime thriller at home against Carthage, who, by the way, is a team that's now 2-5. Behind IWU is North Central and Millikin, and behind... Wait, what? Millikin? Yeah, Millikin. Just like NCC, the Big Blue, 5-1, but took a 63-6 shellacking at the hands of Wheaton. MU also still has the Titans, Bears, and Cardinals in the last 3 weeks of the season. Yikes. North Central's only loss is also against Wheaton, but the Thunder, a 2-loss team, needs some serious help to find their way to the top of the pile. That second loss coming courtesy of the WashU Bears, who, oh by the way, are also tied with Wheaton at 4-2. So there's 5 teams in the race, there's 3 weeks left, and there's countless pitfalls along the way for each team to sink into. True madness? Now that would be a 5-way tie with each team suffering 2 losses. How could that happen? Well, I'm glad you asked. If North Central beats Elmhurst and Illinois Wesleyan, and Millikin beats Illinois Wesleyan and North Central, and Illinois Wesleyan tops North Park, and if Wheaton and WashU both win out, well, the muddier this thing becomes. But that'll be somebody else's job to sort through. I told you, this was just a one-time deal. And we're back to finish up the Red Zone. Sports Information Director Clark Tusser joining me on set. And Clark, this is probably one of the busiest weeks of the year for you guys. Homecoming, Hall of Fame, the whole deal with all that stuff. But I know this is also the most fun time because you get to see alumni come back and you get to celebrate some of the best people in the school's history. And what do you kind of look forward to when it gets to homecoming time?
Well, I've said for several years on this show that the Hall of Fame induction is one of the single best things that the college does. You know, it really does a great job of celebrating some really great, successful athletes, teams, coaches, administrators that have made this college what it is. And every time that we have that, those people always have, you know, not only family and friends, but, you know, people that they competed with, people that they coached. Or, you know, there's always a lot of representation, and it really makes for a special event for those individuals. So that's always a really exciting thing to be able to see, and it kind of starts, you know, kind of that Friday when everybody kind of rolls into campus and they stroll around, and some of them haven't been to campus in 10, 15, 20 years, and so it can be a little disorienting for some of them. So you kind of have to help them figure out where all the new stuff is. But that's always a nice thing because, you know, they're all generally uniformly impressed with how the campus has grown and come along. So that's really an exciting thing for us.
Let's get into some specifics. So Hank and Ron Gunther, very fascinating story. And of all the details that are in their bio, I found one thing probably the most interesting. Hank was hired by the then athletic director, Al Carius.
Yeah, 1970 or 71, Al was the athletic director by default, basically. There was nobody else to do it, so he did it. And really thought Hank could get the football program going through his ability to recruit, and, you know, eventually brought his brother Ron on from a position at Boston College where he'd been an assistant coach, and, you know, that's really kind of where they started to take off.
It honestly is very fascinating reading that whole thing on the Gunthers. Let's go to Jeff Stiles. So this is a 2-sport athlete, if you want to say, you know, cross country, track and field, and a standout.
Yeah, multiple-time All-American, member of 3 national championship teams. Has gone on and for the last several years has been a successful coach in his own right at Washington University in St. Louis. They've won multiple national championships, men's and women's. He's the coach for both men's and women's cross country and track and field. So he's a busy guy. We're glad to be able to get him back on campus this year. We were wondering if that was going to be able to happen with his schedule, but we're certainly glad that that's going to happen on a week when our own conference meet is going to be fairly close by. So we should have a pretty large contingent of cross country and track alums here to celebrate that.
Another runner, Megan Rossi Bremer, she's getting in, a track and field specialist. And what were her qualifications?
Well, she was the very first national champion in the pole vault of the many that we've gone on to have. Back in 2005 as a sophomore, Megan won the indoor championship. She won it again as a senior in 2007 after a 23 vault jump off with another vaulter for first place, which if you're familiar with the event of the pole vault at all, once you get past 6 or 8 good vaults, you're really starting to gamble with how well you're going to be able to do that. And she did it 23 times in one day. So definitely something that the coaches and other athletes that were there remember from that time. And I'm sure that's a story that'll probably get told a time or two over this weekend.
The only other person in this class is somebody that we actually have a record of on video, Alyssa Gaudio in golf.
Yeah, Alyssa is our first ever inductee for women's golf. She was our first individual conference champion, first All-American, first national qualifier, first hole-in-one in tournament play. So we'll add another one to that pile. Also a collegiate head coach at Oakland University at the Division I level. She's won 2 straight Conference Coach of the Year awards.
Wow.
Yet another one that's gone on to make their mark in college athletics in another capacity. We're always glad to be able to incorporate new sports into this event, and no more appropriate one than Alyssa for the sport of women's golf.
Now we've gone back in history. Let's go back to the present day. Women's volleyball wraps up their season tomorrow night, and they do so against some familiar but a down season for their competition.
Yeah, we'll play Wheaton College on senior night, Gregory Arena. It's been kind of a tough season. They've got a chance to close it out on a high note with hopefully a large homecoming crowd in attendance. If they can't, they can watch it on NCTV, certainly.
There you go.
They've really they've kept their heads up. They've kept fighting. A lot of the matches recently have been close. So one more opportunity to finish on a positive note.
Now, you mentioned this earlier as well. The conference races for men's and women's cross country take place at St. James Farm in Warrenville. And, what are the expectations there?
Well, for the men, it's the same as it's been for almost a half century. They'll be gunning for their 45th consecutive conference title as a team. They won that meet with a perfect score a year ago, probably expecting to do something close to that this time. If you ask Al Carius, he's trying to get 10 guys from the start line to the finish line healthy and get ready for the regionals coming up in a couple of weeks. But definitely some high expectations there. On the women's side, it's probably going to be a very close race between North Central and Wheaton for the conference title. We'll have to see which lineup winds up on the starting line. There's been some injuries and some fatigue that's been happening within the team, so determining that lineup of 10 might come down to the wire.
Yeah.
But that's what we're looking at in terms of team competition there. Hopeful to come back with two conference trophies that afternoon.
It's fun when there's that possibility. That's always awesome. We'll get you out of here on this, and it's your quick hit. What was your favorite movie growing up as a kid?
Well, growing up in the state of Indiana in the mid-'80s, and that's when Hoosiers came out.
Yeah.
Which was my first real movie theater experience that I can remember. I was 7 or 8 years old, and it came out. I remember I was told that it came out in Indiana before it was released nationally. So that was a big deal. And then, to see, a film of that scale, and it was based on someplace that you're familiar with.
Yep.
That left a mark, and that's still a movie that if you grow up in Indiana and you haven't seen Hoosiers, there's something considered to be very, very wrong with you. So that's definitely the big one for me.
What was the picket fence?
The picket fence. I think most people in Indiana know the picket fence play by heart.
Clark, thanks so much for hopping by and have fun during homecoming.
Certainly, thank you.
Cardinals take their 6-1 record into battle against the Blue Jays from Elmhurst, and that comes in the homecoming bout inside Benedetti Worley Stadium. We'll have the broadcast beginning at 1:45 with the pregame, kickoff at 2. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Kevin Jackman. This has been The Red Zone.